Good morning, everyone. Give me just a second here. Well, good morning, everyone. Took some time off away from the markets. And anyway, sorry about that. Just a little tech issue here. There we go. Yeah, took a little time off away from the markets. Went out to Paradise, out in the islands. Had a great time there. Hopefully, you were able to enjoy your time if you are in the States here, your 4th of July holiday as well. Anyway, just gonna quickly kind of go through this. By the way, being away and on taking a vacation, I think that's very important to kind of clear your mind a bit and just kind of refresh things. Get away from the markets. I try to do it a couple times a year, usually during the summer, and then right around the Christmas holiday as well. But that's me. But whatever works for you, I encourage you to do it. If you're looking at charts every day, throughout the year, it's nice to have a little mental break. All right, let's just kind of move through here. So you got to talk a little bit about risk. Of course, trading is no joke. You can lose money. Even with the great tools we have using the Nadex platform, we can still lose money. So please keep that in mind. Only trade with monies you can afford to lose. Right? Don't trade with your food money, your rent money. Don't borrow money to trade either, because that just causes a whole nother bunch of problems. All right, so as I like to say, just use a good old common horse sense. All right, that's me. I've been at this for over 30 years, different type. Been trading for over and involved with the markets for over 30 years. Been at it for a long time, and that's us from the greatest business on earth. This is what we call it, because what could be better than trading? All right, so we're going to take a look here at some news events for the rest of the week and things that might impact the markets here moving forward. So what I want to do at this point is just move over to a website that I like to use, and I'll show you that. That is either of these actually are very, very good. I tend to just use the Forex Factory for no other particular reason than I've been using it for a long time. I just like the clarity that they present the information. So what we're going to do now is just kind of move over to that page here. So let me load that up. And there we go. So this is the Forex Factory calendar. You just come to forexfactory.com. I have no association with these folks other than I like the calendar. I like to filter this some, so I come over here to the corner here, the right corner, right there, and just click on that guy. And so what I'm going to do here, because I'm only interested in these high impact events, which are the red folders. So I just uncheck everything else and hit apply. Some folks like to look at the orange folders. That's fine, however you wish to do it. But what it does is it really narrows things down, and you can see the events that are scheduled here now. Really kind of compartmentalizes it here. And tomorrow is a big day. These times here are all East Coast times, by the way, but a big day out of Canada as far as news reports go. It's at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We also have Fed Chair Powell speaking here in the U.S. at the same time. So I would anticipate that that's going to affect the U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar Forex pair. So be aware of that. Also, later in the day, we have the Fed meeting minutes. We also have, at 10:15 Eastern, boy, if I could draw straight, Bank of Canada press conference. So a lot of news. That might even be just a good day to sit out and to watch this stuff from the sidelines, because that can affect a lot of different markets. In the U.S., as far as the Fed meetings go, we have the stock indices, the financials, the metals, of course, the currencies, and even the energies to some degree can be affected by whatever the meeting minutes happen to say. So anyway, that's on Wednesday. On Thursday, we have a couple of events here out of the US again, and then Fed Chair Powell continues testifying, and then Friday morning, we have the PPI numbers come out there at 8:30 Eastern. So there you go. That's kind of a look at the news. Tomorrow, as I said, might be a good day to sit out, but of course, that's entirely up to you. Sometimes that volatility can be a double-edged sword. Yeah, so how I filtered this out, I just came right here, right to where it says, has that filter drawn, just click that filter. And it's on the calendar page, so you just come to the filter, you click the filter, and you just uncheck the boxes, and then click Apply Filter. All right, so let's move on from here. Let's keep rolling. So let's do this. Let's take a look at, yeah, you bet. Let's take a look at some of the markets that might provide some volatility this week. I have 3 markets I want to kind of focus on here this morning. So let me bring my charts over and we'll get rolling. So of course the stock indices, excuse me, open up here at the bottom of the hour. 6:30 my time, 9:30 Eastern time. This is the E-mini S&P 500. Yeah, you bet, James. And hey, good to see you, Chuck. All right, so what I like to do, again, if you're not familiar with what I do, this is my workspace that I typically have up all day long. This is bar chart trader platform. Charting platform. You can trade from it to different futures, etc. But what I like to do is I like to look at multi-time frames. So it's multi-time frame analysis, and it's top-down analysis. So I start at upper time frames. I break it down. The time frames are divisible by 3. So for instance, I have a 243-minute chart here. That's what I'm going to load to begin today. Underneath that would be an 81-minute chart. Underneath that would be 27, so just divisible by 3 and so forth, and just gives me different views of what the heck is going on. Okay, so let's see here. I got something going on. Looks like I'm missing. All right, so let me get rid of this trend line. And so these, what you'll see me draw here on the chart is support and resistance zones, or our support and resistance zones. So I like to just kind of mark these levels off, because as the market gets into these areas, I oftentimes, a high percentage of the time, will see the market struggle, if not reverse out of that zone. Now, of course, there's no guarantee to anything like that, but it's a good idea to keep an eye on these things. So really all I'm doing is looking for these support and resistance levels, these pivots. We're going to mark those off here. I'm going to change the color to this one to green. And I sync them over to my other charts. And then I just draw some lines. Those are kind of the main zones that I'm keeping an eye on here. So we're going to do this. So look at this. All these highs here, former highs, which were resistance, are now support. See that? The market's sitting right on that. We also have some moving averages in here, moving average support. Double-edged sword as far as the volatility means it can cut you up as well as provide potential profit opportunities. It's basically, it comes down to trying to interpret the news, and then I prefer not flipping a coin when I trade, because I work hard at this and I don't want to give it away for free. If that makes sense. And I imagine everyone out there this morning works very hard for your capital as well, right? So don't be in a hurry to give it to someone else. All right, so another support level. So I'm just marking these off. You can see how the market is pretty quiet in here. This is essentially a 4-hour chart, 243 minutes. Every bar or candlestick that develops takes 243 minutes to shape up. So you can see here over the last, we have 1, 2, 3 here. So that's what, 12 hours plus the current one. So going on 16 hours of nothing here, just very, very quiet price action. Now, the other thing I notice here within this time frame is a possible chart pattern. So combining chart patterns with, when we get to momentum read here in a minute, a possible shoulder over here, that's a head and shoulder top pattern here on this 4-hour chart. Trying to shape up. This right shoulder isn't quite in place, but look at the loss of momentum. This is my momentum indicator that you see here, this middle panel with the red and the blue line on it. But if I look from this high right here to this, we don't have a high in here to measure yet, but even if we come over here to current price levels, we have a much sharper decline in momentum here. So what I'm going to anticipate here, just off of this chart with a little bit of information I have here, is a move back up and a kind of a retest up here of this resistance zone. And because my bottom indicator is my cycle indicator right here, and I don't like to short at cycle lows, and that is a cycle low. I want to buy at cycle lows if I'm going to buy. I'm not going to buy this right now, but so ideally this is what I'd like to see, this come up here and do this. So that means price is going to have to rally if that's going to shape up. So that's within this specific time frame. So see, I don't know what's going on underneath the market at this point because we haven't looked at anything else. So there may be other signs for possible shorting opportunity, or more or less what I call a scalp, which is a shorter term type of setup. And I didn't make the term up. It's been around forever. All right, so here is the same chart looking at an 81-minute chart. All right, so we'll look at that. And you can see kind of that same region I was just highlighting. We have here, here, and a possible shoulder taking shape here. So the market, again, sitting on support. We have the 200 period moving average, which is this purple line. The market is consolidating. I also see on here, some would call this a flag pattern as well, a bear flag right here. So that's the flag pole leading down to the flag. That is a bearish chart pattern. But again, so we're right into support. But notice on this chart how the cycle study is moving higher. So it's actually at this point trying to confirm a cycle low within this time frame. But big difference here on this chart with the momentum is right there. It's flat. It's almost zeroed out. The zero line is about right up here, just above the current high of this. So tell me there's no momentum in the market at the moment in this time frame. So on the higher time frame, we had a pretty significant loss of momentum, right? And this time frame, not so much. All right, so let's just keep rolling here because we have limited time this morning. All right, so again, the same time frame. This is a 27-minute chart. On Nadex, you could pull up a 30-minute chart. On Nadex, you can't pull up an 81-minute chart. You can pull up a 60-minute chart. It'll get you close. So here's the difference here. So again, this is the big part of that pattern we've been reviewing, but here's another pattern within that pattern. See, this is an inverted head and shoulder pattern. So remember, I talked about looking for the market to bounce perhaps off of that 243-minute chart. That's what I wanted to see. And perhaps we could get a setup to ride part of that wave back the other direction. It would be a shorter term trade, maybe up to this level. And that's a pretty good move, but it's not confirmed yet. But we do have a complete shift in momentum. Momentum is now flipped to the blue wave here. It's to the upside within this time frame on this half-hour chart. But again, you look where this is. I don't want to be buying yet. I want that confirmation from my cycle indicator, which means something like that. So maybe price can dip a little bit lower and this thing can hook up, and that might provide a possible entry. And I would, if the entry comes about, I would look to put a stop down below the lows here with a target up in this range here, and if not here. All right. You know, Jeff, I don't know why you would have difference in prices. You have futures prices here, and you'd have to check with the Nadex folks about that. But if you're having a discrepancy. The difference, perhaps you're seeing a difference, Jeff, in the Forex markets. That would definitely be the case through virtually any provider because of the data pool they pull through, but futures should be spot on. But if you're getting a little bit different data ticks in between whatever charting platform you're using in Nadex, it's because of on the Forex pairs, it's because of the different data pools that are out there. So they will be slightly different. And Jeff said it was Forex. Thank you. You bet. All right, so let's go down to the 9-minute, because we got a couple of the markets to zip through too. So again, a little more clarity here, just a bigger picture kind of allows you to zoom in, right? See, this is right in here. So again, looking for that thing to just kind of, at this point, let's see if we can, if I can get this to work right here. Have this pull back. Remember, I was just saying that on the other time frame. See if we can pull back into here, and perhaps that would allow a cycle to be completed on that 27-minute chart, right? We're over here in this lower left corner. See if we can get that filled in a bit here. And again, this would just be a short, kind of a shorter term trade at this point, because we have so much momentum lost on these higher time frames. Especially you look at this again, just a reminder. I see a complete loss of momentum here. Energies, even on the next higher time frame, which I did not review, above the 243 times 3 is 729, so a 729-minute chart. Look at that, a complete loss in momentum here. We're at support, so this is important if the market's going to hold this level. Looks like it's about the 29.66 half level. All right, so that's really the story right now. The market is has on a higher time frame energy to the downside. These shorter or smaller time frames show a possibility of a bounce off of the support levels to perhaps test that red zone that I have there. So this is just a matter of watching this here going forward. All right, so that was the September E-mini S&P 500, or on Nadex, the US 500. And let's go next to crude oil. So we're going to look at August crude oil. All right, so now you see on this chart here, I don't have my zones marked up. So we'll do that right now, real fast here. So just grab the rectangle tool, and I'm looking for what I consider important levels, just kind of looking backwards here. And let's see if we can get that positioned a little better. Right about there. So that's a key resistance area, at least at this point. And I just like to color code these things. So again, I'm just looking at these pivots, these points, and just try to connect the dots, so to speak, connect the lines. And yours may not be exactly the same as mine, but as long as you are consistent with the way you market them up, I think that's the most important thing. And so this, you see this lower zone's a little bit wider. It's actually quite a bit wider. Let's see here. So crude oil, let's see, I'm actually going to come back here. See these right here, these lows? I'm going to incorporate the real bodies is where I'm going to touch that. And then I'm going to come right down here, just like that. So this will be a bit wider. Actually, we can do this. So that takes into consideration this consolidation, these lows, these highs, these lows as well. So that's going to be kind of the tighter version of this at the moment. And then we'll just kind of work our way down looking at the market from here. So again, notice how the momentum indicator is kind of flattening out. It is to the upside, but there's a zero line just below it here. And at this point, with the market just consolidating here, it's lost momentum. It's trying to cycle low here. And you'll note this red line is the 89-period simple moving average. So the market's trying to bounce off there, but it's also kind of wedged between that and this one, the 50-period moving average. See that? It's formed a triangle pattern. Now, typically, I use triangle patterns as trend continuation patterns. And here, the trend is currently sideways. So not a high probability pattern at that point, in my view. All right, so we're sitting on support at the top of the support zone. The market's kind of wedged in between the moving averages. There's not a lot of momentum at this point. So let's go down and look at the next lower time frame here. Okay, so prices clearly moved higher off these lows. So there's another support zone or support area as far as the trend line goes. Again, sitting here, I'm not getting a lot of different information. Again, not much momentum at the moment here this morning at this point. Market's been pretty choppy since these lows were put in. This is right around the $56 level. Rallied up here yesterday to 58.50, so about a $2.50 difference just in this bigger range here. Right here, about a $2.50 range. And as we move forward here, again, just sitting on the support level, kind of choppy and sideways. So let's come down here to the next level. Let me get rid of these. So this is a 27-minute chart. Again, on Nadex, you could pull up a 30-minute chart. So notice these highs here in momentum. This high is actually lower than this high. Price is lower. So we have the momentum higher and you have price lower on the two peaks, relative areas. And the market's sold off, again, sitting here clearly at support. So this is telling me that this support level, the top of this green zone, is very important because we see kind of the continuity between all the different time frames that the market, we're not getting anything different out of that. In other words, not much momentum. The market's hanging out at that level. So I just drew this line kind of across this general area here. It's not exact, but that's another area. So inside the range, let's see, that comes in about 57, 54-ish, 55-ish. So another 20 cents or so below. And you can see this is at an area here where we could put in a cycle low, which would kind of correspond to what price is doing. So in other words, you see how the market's moved up, pulled back. This is pulling back here. If this hooks up, then price do something like that. That may provide a possible long setup here in crude oil if these support regions hold. So let's kind of look for another area here on the next lower time frame. All right, so we'll go down to the 9-minute chart. All right, so there was a head and shoulder pattern right here. So that was a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder, asymmetrical pattern. Momentum is shifted to the downside here on this time frame, but there's not a lot of momentum. In fact, I had this indicator designed so it would show a lighter color when momentum weakened in that direction. So you can see here on the red how it's become lighter. So the momentum to the downside is weakened. You can see that up here on the blue as well, how it became a lighter blue versus something like right here as an example. So again, at support, the market's testing it, and now we're getting some momentum to the downside though. So remember, I drew this line right here on that other chart. And what I want to do is see if there's an area here we can kind of fine tune this a bit. And you can see the highs right through here. See that? And there's some highs over here and here. So another important level, just kind of underneath the hood, if you will. And you can see where that comes into play. We have these moving averages, which will act as support, and we have these two trend lines. So somewhere between, if the market decides to break down here off this weaker momentum or strong momentum to the downside, we should see a test in here. And this is where the market could struggle. Does that make sense? Now, the cool thing about this type of analysis is that you can do it on different time frames. Obviously, I'm using different time frames, intraday time frames, but you could do it from the weekly, the daily, the 4-hour, the 1-hour charts. It works across asset classes. It works in different time frames. All right, so you can see here the market has done really nothing since we've been talking about it here for the last 5 or 10 minutes. That support is important. So from a 3-minute chart standpoint, okay, so we have the 200 period moving average kind of right in here. One other tool I'm going to use is the Fibonacci retracements. I'm going to measure from this low here up to this high, and I just tend to keep an eye on a range here, and I just tend to draw a box from the 382 retracement levels down to the 618. So we have an idea where that is. And you see how the market now is moving down just a tad. Then I'll clear the drawing off. There we go. So now we have an idea here. So we're in the Fibonacci zone, which is support. So the top edge of this is the 382% retracement. The midpoint of that box I just drew is the 50% retracement of that move I just measured over here. And the bottom of that is the 618% retracement. Then we have horizontal chart support just below that Fibonacci box, and as well as moving averages on some other time frames. So as I mentioned, looking for the market to hesitate somewhere down in this region here and perhaps continue some sort of move to the upside. So one other final note on this, we have momentum to the upside. Momentum is blue, but it's pretty flat here. Momentum has been to the upside, but it has retraced here. Still, I consider that bullish, but it's weakening momentum to the upside. Is there a video at our website, best chart timeframes? Mike, I have all that in my binary course on the DVDs, and through prior in-house webinars that I've held. Those are all posted on the website. If you go back to the first couple of binary webinars that I did, oh gosh, a year or so ago, you'll find them there. All right. So, all right, so again, just kind of watching, you can see how we're getting a little bit of a few ticks here, about 3 or 4 ticks here to the downside at the moment. Let's see here, what time? We're right at the bottom of the hour. I'm not sure we're going to get through another one here this morning, but real quick here, we'll look at one Forex pair, the Euro USD. So the Euro dollar, US dollar, you see I already have the zones marked out. We'll just look at the 4 hour. So the market clearly took a nosedive into support right through here, right to this range, consolidated, came down to this support level. You can see how I have that drawn in there, and that's where it's trying to shape up right now. So in the process, or whoops, let's get that, there we go. In the process of dipping down here into this green zone, we have a left shoulder and a head forming of an inverted head and shoulder pattern. So we can look for a reversal. There was one over here as well. See that? It's a little harder to see, but there was one right there. Asymmetrical head and shoulder pattern. Look at that move to the upside that occurred here a while back. So momentum is shifting here. You can see how it's come off these lows. It's actually basis, the indicator here, whoops, is moving up when price was moving down. So we have some divergence there. All right, so let's go down to the 81-minute chart. And there, you see how you can see the same kind of pivot lows here forming that head and shoulder pattern I was talking about. So look at the difference. Momentum is flat, is bullish at the moment, but there's not much strength behind it. And I say that because it's you can see the visual here of this being, it's kind of in a channel. So the market's trying to find a bottom here at this point. That's why the sideways momentum, slightly bullish. We'll come down here to the 27-minute chart. So a little more clarity here. So this, gosh, there's actually another pattern in place here. This is a little bit funkier. There's more of we have this level here, and we have like a double bottom, but it's not a true double bottom, in that the right circle, the low there is actually a little bit of ways from that, but I would call that a some would call that a 1, 2, 3 pattern. Some of you may be familiar with that. We have a 1 right here, and this is the 2, and this is the 3. And you see how price came into the zone, formed the pattern, and is now trying to break out of the zone. So I don't want to buy here this type of cycle high here. So what I'm going to do on this pair is I'm going to watch this, see if this breaks out of the zone, comes back for a retest. Something like that. As you can see, like right here where the market came down, it tested the top of the zone, bounced, retested the top of the zone. There's a little bit of movement in here. Looks like about 15 pips or so right there. But again, remember, tomorrow is a big news day, so we may not get a lot of activity. Another thing too is price action. You know, the number of players, the amount of money in the markets tends to disappear to some degree during the summertime as vacations come about. So we don't have as much volume, excuse me, as we might have, say, during October. All right, so 9-minute chart, and we'll wrap it up here in just a minute. So again, I think you can see a little clearer. There's actually a larger head and shoulder pattern right there. So the market is broken out, moving up here. We have positive momentum that's weakening just a tad. Again, I would watch for a breakout and a retest. So in other words, have the market move up and then come back down to this range in here and then bounce off of that. And so if this went like this and then came down and then hooks up, that's where I'd look for a possible entry opportunity. All right, any questions here before we get out of here today? Any other questions, I should say? All right, well, if you do come up with a question down the road and you want to reach out to us, you are welcome to. You can go to our website here at www.gbinary.com. You can email us at support@gbmembers.com, or you can just simply call our office. We have a staff in the office, all been together for all the folks in there, I think over 20 years for each of them now. So they know what they're doing. Give the office a call, 541-955-2700. Those are our office hours. Any day the markets are open, pretty much any day the markets are open, our office is going to be open. And again, that's Pacific time, so we're on the West Coast. So if it's 8 o'clock on the East Coast and you try to call us, no one's going to be answering the phone at 5 a.m. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Let's see here. Will Nadex app have good tools for charting? I'm not sure about what I'm not actually sure what you mean by that, James. The Nadex does have some pretty good charts on their website that you can use under the platform. I would check those out if you have not done so. You're welcome, everybody. Have a great day, and we will do this again next week as well. So have a great one, everyone. I'm Jim Prince. God bless. We'll see you again next time. Take care, everyone.